Hi there, I'm Michelle.
I'm Jim, and we are A Teague of Your Own.
Welcome to another Motivational Monday.
Let's get motivated.
Woo! Yay! It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood.
It is.
And it is just gorgeous outside.
The weather's turned nice.
Yes, we don't have the heat wave anymore.
Heat wave is gone. Yay.
90s are behind us.
I hope.
Yeah, you never know.
You know,
it's only July.
It's only July, so we still have plenty of time for more 90s.
Plenty of time. Yeah.
We are through our second heat wave
Yep.
for this summer.
Yeah.
And this is like nothing we've ever experienced since we've been here.
Are we up to, was it 14 days now?
Something like that. I know we're into double digits.
As far as into the 90s.
Yes.
Not in a row.
Not in a row. They basically come in two chunks.
Yeah.
So we've had two waves. And hopefully this is the last of that, because they have been rough.
Miserable. Everybody's lawns are not happy. We did get a little bit of rain, but not enough. To make everything green.
No, we're way behind. We're in a serious rain deficit.
Yeah.
Not to the point of drought or anything. They're not using that word yet.
No, that's because back in August and April and May we had tons of rain.
Yeah, a lot of rain.
So
nice thing about it is I haven't had to mow the grass too many times this summer. It's only been a handful.
I know.
And it's because the grass it isn't growing. It's all brown, and it'll turn green here. Yeah, it's very crunchy, but it'll turn green here shortly. Once we start getting some rain, even though I don't know what the forecast is for rain coming up. I know the highs are back to being seasonably warm, so it's much nicer.
Better.
Some better sleeping weather.
Yes.
That makes it nice. I don't know about other people, but I don't like sweating when I'm sleeping. It's just not comfortable.
It's not.
And it's just hard to get the house cooled down at night sometimes,
Yeah.
especially when outside it's still 80+ degrees. It's crazy.
It is crazy.
It's hard to cool down anything.
Lots going on. UFO festival was this past weekend. Have a bunch of stuff coming up. I mean, it's just summer's in full swing.
Yeah.
So lots of fun.
The UFO festival, you have to explain that one. That is a festival honoring the UFO that supposedly crashed in Kecksburg, Pennsylvania. Most of you probably never heard of Kecksburg. Some of you have.
Mm-hmm.
But that was back in 63, 64, I think, something like that. It's been a long time. And from eyewitness accounts, people who were there, they all have the same story, even though, seemingly they did not collaborate on this, that it was a giant acorn shape thing that
fell out of the sky
with apparently hieroglyphics on it that fell out of the sky one evening. And right after it fell, all kinds of military people showed up.
Yep.
And they supposedly put the thing on a flatbed truck off they went. And they never got an explanation for it. So if you ever go to Kecksburg, go to the fire department.
Right across the street from the fire department.
Yes.
They have
a mock-up of model of what eyewitnesses have said they saw.
It's like an upside down acorn.
Yeah, it looks like
it looks like
acorn with hieroglyphics on it. It's the craziest looking thing. And they have a whole festival for it. They have bed races.
Hospital bed races.
Hospital bed races, yes. What else do they do?
Just all kinds of
stuff.
Yes,
you go into the
bands
a lot of bands, and then they have lectures about
fireworks,
about different phenomena. So if you go into the main room there in the hall, you'll have people selling all kinds of stuff. A lot of Bigfoot related stuff. I never have quite figured out what that had to do with the UFO festival, and then every year they'll have the lovely T-shirts that telling you about the UFO festival.
Yes.
So, and then they do have fireworks on the last night.
Yeah.
So if you get a chance, go to Kecksburg. It's a lot of fun.
Go there next year and you'll have a great time.
Yeah. It's a good country kind of time if you're into that sort of thing. It's fun. Everybody should go at least once.
Yes. Just so you can say
you went. Yeah. Get the T-shirt to prove it.
There you go. So today we're actually talking about something where sometimes people will do things just to say that they did it.
Yeah.
But what we're talking about today is a quote by Joseph Schwartz that is, do what you fear and fear disappears. Okay, so do what you fear and fear disappears. Kind of makes sense, sort of, kind of. For other people out there, they're just like, what do you mean it disappears? So what does this quote mean to you?
That means that quite often we build up in our minds what the outcomes are going to be for different things that we might do. And that leads us to have a fear of doing those things, even though quite often when you do those things, whatever it may be, you often find out that everything that you imagined was wrong. And quite often it turns out, well, sometimes it turns out even better than you could ever have imagined. Yeah. So that happens all the time with entrepreneurs, people who decide I'm going to go into business.
Yeah.
And, there's a fear factor to that. The fear is that you could fail. The fear is that you'll look like an idiot for doing this. Well, you may have friends and family that say, why are you doing this? You go get that job.
And to that point, the statistics would show that most small businesses do fail.
Yeah.
Over a 5-year period, you will see that most of them do.
Right. So the fear is somewhat founded.
However, there are several that don't.
Right. You've always got the ones that succeed. Yeah. And who's to say that it can't be you?
Exactly.
That's also a phenomena that salespeople face.
Yeah.
There's some people out there. Actually, it's interesting. I was going through a sales program, and we were talking about making phone calls. And one of the participants who paid a lot of money to be there, they said, I can't make the phone calls. And he was asked why. He said, because I have a fear of the phone. And he just refused. He would not make the phone calls.
Our daughter does not like to talk on the phone. I don't think she's afraid of the phone, but she does not like to talk on the phone. So yeah.
And I'm not big on talking on the phone, and part of that was my upbringing, because there were stretches in my life
you didn't have
a phone. And so when we were living in Greece, we were there for Greece, the country. My father was in the military, and we were there for 2.5 years. And during that 2.5 years, we didn't have a phone. And so I got used to not having a phone. And then we moved to Germany after that. And there we had a phone. But the crazy thing is, back in those days, and it was quite a while ago, when you made a phone call, you paid for every single call.
Yes.
And on the German phone lines, theirs were really unique. Like I said, we didn't have a phone in Greece, so I can't even talk to what it was like to have a phone there. If I wanted to call somebody, I had to go to payphone. And that was if they had a phone.
Yeah.
Didn't know too many people that had a phone. In Germany, when you're making the call, as the call is in progress, you hear clicking noise in the background. And if you were calling somebody who was just down the road, you would hear click.
And then several minutes would go by.
Yeah. Click.
Yeah.
Be a long time between each click.
Yes.
And each one of those clicks, we used to joke that I'm in 10 pfennigs.
It was.
So be the equivalent of 10 cents US, but not in exchange.
In the early 90s, it was still 10 pfennigs.
It was 10 pfennigs. Yeah. But now if you were calling somebody who was a long distance away, whole time you're talking, click, 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 click. Yeah. And if you were really a long way, if you're calling back to the States, click, 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 click. It was irritating.
Yeah.
It was actually irritating trying to talk to people with this clicking constantly going on in the background. So we were trained not to use the phone. The phone was for emergency purposes only, because it was expensive to call people back then. Even you paid for it, even calling people locally. We learned to actually leave the house and go down the road and knock on their door and say, hey, dude, what are you doing?
Yeah.
So, and then when I went to college, my first year, I didn't have a phone, couldn't afford one. So, yeah.
Well, and a lot of people are afraid of calling because they're afraid that people are going to say no.
Yep.
So if you're in sales, if you're a business owner, you've got to get the word out about what it is that you're selling, the services or the products that you're selling and providing to people out there. And one way to do that is to call people. And there are a lot of people who are afraid to pick up the phone and make those phone calls because they're afraid of what they're going to hear on the other end.
Right. Some people don't like to hear no. Sometimes people will be rude and hang up on you.
Yep.
That's just the nature of the game. I know probably shouldn't admit this, but sometimes when I get the phone call and it's a spam call, but the number pops up and I don't realize who it is, and I answer, and then I'll hear some funny little thing, and then somebody will mispronounce my name, and I just hang up because I know they're trying to sell me something or that I don't want. And
how do you know you don't want it?
I'm assuming I don't want it.
That's the thing about calling businesses.
Yeah.
How do they know they don't want it?
How do they know they don't want it?
And a lot of times they actually do need what you are selling, and it's a matter of trying to break through to them.
Yeah.
But there is a fear of, like I said, calling people. There's a fear of no. Some people need to understand no doesn't necessarily mean never. No, a lot of times means not now.
Not now. Maybe later.
Maybe later.
Yeah.
But then there are other fears that can be caused by, our need for survival.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are afraid of heights. Some people are afraid of sharks or dangerous animals. Some people have one friend who has a fear of bridges. She's afraid to go over bridges because she's afraid that they're going to collapse. And when you live in Pittsburgh, there are lots of bridges, and
one of them did collapse.
So
that is also not an unfounded fear.
Yeah. Back at the end of May, went ziplining, and some of the ladies that I went ziplining, definite fear of heights. But like the quote says, do what you fear, and fear disappears. Now, I'm not going to say that they're no longer afraid of heights, because that's not true.
Right.
However, they climbed I want to say it's 40 plus foot telephone pole, got to the top, and then zip line down to the bottom. They were scared to death the entire time, but they did it. And now they can say they did it. I doubt they'd ever do it again. But they can say they did it. They overcame their fear long enough to where they can now say, look what I did.
Right. And it's interesting because some people have that fear, and then there's others. I've never had that fear.
No, I'm not afraid of heights.
No.
What's interesting is my cousin's husband, who is over 7 feet tall. He's afraid of heights.
Yeah. Yeah. He told me that one day, and I said, dude, you are a height.
Yeah.
That's it. He's a foot taller than me.
Yeah.
And I'm tall. I'm 6'1". And it's just so weird. We were at a place, Wakulla Springs.
Wakulla Springs, yeah.
And they have 2 platforms that you can jump off of to get into the water. One's only about 3 feet above the water. There's another one's about 10 feet over the water. And we were out there on that platform, and time to go, and he would not go. And it was crazy because all around us there was little kids.
Tiny little kids.
Yeah, they're just jumping off like a bunch of lemmings. And here's this guy, 7'1", and he's afraid to jump off of there. So I left him behind and jumped on in, because that's never bothered me.
No. Some people, there are things that just don't bother them. Other people, lots of things.
Yeah.
So the whole idea behind this is, when you face those fears, when you do what it is that you're afraid of, you will overcome that fear, right, and it will start to disappear. You'll realize, maybe I don't need to be afraid of this anymore. Maybe I really can do this. Oh, this isn't as bad as I thought it would be. Okay, so get out there, face your fears. Sometimes you need a plan for doing that, especially if you're in business, if you're in sales. You may need help when it comes to coming up with strategy. You may need to figure out, how do I do this in stages? How do I come up with a plan for actually facing that fear and doing the work and getting through it? Who could they contact if they need help with coming up with a strategy or a plan for all of that?
Let's see. Who could they call? See, that would be us.
That would be us. And how could they do that?
They could call us on the phone.
Now, what if they're afraid to call people?
Then text us.
Okay.
We have another way you can get in touch with us.
Okay.
And you can see our phone number right there on the screen, 412-420-7975. You could send us an email.
Right
info@ateagueofyourown.com.
Yep.
You could go to our website, ateagueofyourown.com. So you can contact us through the website.
Yep.
You can also go to our social media. We are on Facebook. We're on LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube. All of these videos that we do here, you can find them on YouTube. So you may want to go to our channel, see if there's some topics in there that interest you, and watch the videos.
Yep.
Doesn't cost you a thing. And while you're there, subscribe. Yep. Subscribe to our channel. We'd certainly appreciate that.
Yes, we would. All right. So get out there, face your fears. We're here for you if you need a strategy for that. And we want to know, what are some of your fears? Let us know. Some of you are going to be afraid of, like we said, good things to be afraid of. You know, others of you, you're going to be like, oh, what I'm really afraid of is, like your mother. Your mother's afraid of being in an elevator by herself.
That's what she says. I don't know if that's true. I think that was just an excuse. She was grasping at any excuse at that point to not stay where we had taken her to.
Well, no, she told us that when we were in the hospital.
Yeah, but amazingly, she seems to have gotten over it. So,
because she faced her fear.
She did face her
fear. And it
fear.
disappeared. Yeah. See?
And figured out, when you got an elevator that only goes up one floor, your chances of getting stuck are pretty slim.
Yeah. And if it does, it's only one floor.
Yeah, it's only one floor. They'll get you out of there.
They will. All right. So let us know what your fears are, and we will see you next week. Bye, everybody.